So just to give a brief outline of what the webinar will involve, I'll take you through some background context for children and young people's physical activity in Leeds, and Alex will reveal some information on what families have been getting up to during lockdown in terms of physical activity. Jason will then outline some fantastic new resources that have been developed by Active Leeds, activity packs for under 8s and over 8s. And Alex will talk about This is PE, which is a great new initiative that has also come out of the coronavirus period and has been supported by the Yorkshire Sport Foundation. We'll then go on to talk about being active with others. So Donna will take you through risk assessment information and share some great practice locally around that. We'll talk about being active out and about, which I'll mainly cover. And then between us, we'll talk a bit more about play and play streets. We hope you enjoy the webinar. There's a wealth of national and international evidence showing a strong positive relationship between physical activity and mental and emotional well-being. This graph uses data from My Health, My School, a survey of students in primary and secondary schools in Leeds. In 2019, more than 20,000 students completed the survey, so it's a really valuable and reliable source of information. You can see that there's a direct relationship between being active and feeling less stressed and anxious. This relationship has probably never been more important. In a recent UNICEF study, 2 in 5 children in the UK reported feeling anxious and worried, while 62% worried about the impact of coronavirus on their lives. At the same time, lots of studies, including recent research from China, show that children are less active when they're not at school. It's difficult for parents to provide structured activity sessions while they're also homeschooling, working from home, and dealing with all kinds of other difficult issues, from financial hardship to bereavement. Indeed, such difficulties can accelerate the impact of school absence dramatically, deepening health inequalities. When families are coping with poverty, crowded housing, lack of access to green space, shielding due to long-term health conditions, and sadly in some cases, suffering abuse or trauma, it's even more challenging to enable kids to be active enough for good health. But it's exactly when families are living in such difficult circumstances that children are more likely to experience increased levels of stress and anxiety, making it even more important to focus on enabling them to be active, as physical activity is such a strong protective factor for mental well-being. There are so many benefits when children achieve recommended levels of physical activity. For 0 to 5, the recommended daily amount is 180 minutes or 3 hours of being active. With such young children, this can simply mean messy play or tummy time, as well as active play either inside or outside. For children aged 5 to 18, the UK's chief medical officers recommend 60 minutes every day, which can include walking or scooting, as well as playing with friends, doing sports and games, and activities like dancing, swimming, and yoga. Being active improves sleep, maintains healthy weight, builds confidence and social skills, develops coordination, improves concentration and learning, develops healthy bones and a healthy body, and makes you feel good. Get Set Leeds is a citywide conversation about how Leeds can become a more active city. Taking a partnership approach, Get Set Leeds was developed by Active Leeds, Public Health and the city's Health Partnerships team, with academic support from Leeds Beckett University. In 2019, the Get Set Leeds team engaged with more than 4,000 people, over 2,400 via an online survey, and 1,800 through face-to-face chats at focus groups and events. Hundreds of these conversations involve children and young people, including the Leeds Youth Council, school students, young people with learning disabilities, and children at events led by Breeze and Child Friendly Leeds. We heard so many great ideas from children for how people could be more active, from dance-offs in the park to mass Nerf gun fights. But we also heard about the barriers children and young people are facing. So much of children's experiences are dependent on family support, financially or in terms of time, and also in terms of parental attitudes and approaches to encouraging physical activity. Lots of children simply reported they weren't being active within their families because they weren't being supported to do so. And for many teenagers, being active was just not on their radar. With all other age groups, aged 25 to 80, people often said they felt motivated to be active, but were impeded by issues such as time, money, and structural barriers. But for young people, one key barrier was motivation. Teenagers have lots of competing priorities and are managing lots of pressures. This is also the age at which gender and ethnicity begin to show a significant relationship to activity levels in national data. A health needs assessment looking at children and young people's physical activity in Leeds in 2016 found that only 39% of girls at secondary school are active enough for good health, compared to 54% of boys. Different approaches and resources might be engaging for some young people, but off-putting to others. So it's important to be mindful of the impact of gender and cultural identities when we're trying to spark young people's interest in being active.
What have families been doing in lockdown? The chart you can see here is the results from a Sport England COVID-19 survey of over 2,000 adults that explored the types of physical activity adults were participating in during each week of lockdown. Notable findings were that walking has been the main replacement for any structured sports and activities that were taking place pre-COVID. Another significant shift is that whereas before COVID adults were taking part in structured sports and activities alone, the walking that has replaced this has often been done as a whole family together. Another activity on the list that has engaged the family is that of informal play or games within the home, and the benefits of informal play for children will be touched upon later in the webinar. Seen together with the Get Set Leeds data, this goes a long way in confirming the notion that family can have a major influence on the participation of children in physical activity. In fact, in another Sport England survey, this time targeted at children aged 3 to 12, 70% of the children said they are being active with parents or carers during lockdown. Children don't always get to choose how, when, and whether or not they can be active, but with parents and carers having had more time and swapping more independent activities with family-friendly ones, we are seeing them becoming role models for physical activity and making a big difference to how children are taking part in sport and exercise under lockdown. The rest of the webinar will focus on resources and opportunities that have emerged from the lockdown, as well as sharing information on the great work that was already happening in Leeds to enable children and young people to be more active. We will look at being active at home, out and about, and with others, including information on risk assessing activities for children and young people, before moving on to talk about play.
Active Leeds is Leeds City Council physical activity offer. Our aim is for Leeds to be the best city to be active in, as well as a facilities team which oversees and supports the delivery of Leeds City Council leisure centres. Active Leeds has a development team that focuses on reducing inactivity and increasing levels of physical activity in Leeds. One of the team's aims is to reduce health inequalities by working in the most deprived communities with underrepresented groups. Projects involving young people, including Leeds Girls Can, which has a Young Ambassadors programme for young females aged 14 to 18 years olds, Get Set Leeds Local, which is working with families in some of the most deprived communities in Leeds, and Positive Futures, which enables young people to move on from offending behaviour or employment through engaging through physical activity programmes. Physical and mental wellbeing is hugely important during this difficult period. In an effort to support everyone at home, Active Leeds is providing various online resources such as activity tutorials, guidance and information, and fun challenges to try from home and in the great outdoors. We are sure there will be something that will work for you and allow you to be healthy at home. There are sections specifically for families which include links to lots of great resources, including Active Imaginations and Cosmic Kids Yoga. There are lots of ways to try and keep your body and mind healthy both at home and outdoors. By doing so, we can avoid stress and inactivity during this period. It is important to support others to become and remain active, and if you are well and able, please browse our pages alongside other platforms for a wealth of online content around being active and your well-being. Visit the Active Leeds YouTube channel. Active Leeds has developed 2 toolkits specifically to support families during this pandemic. The Under 8s toolkit is called Ready Steady Rainbow. This resource has the capacity to engage with young children due to the creation of three colourful and vibrant characters called Siri, Ray and Hydro. These characters enable children to use their imaginations to get active and to stay active, whilst encouraging children to make a rainbow once they've completed 3 activity cards: movement, growth mindset and mindfulness on their rainbow wall chart. To get involved in these activities requires little or no equipment at all. If you haven't got any equipment available, you can use alternative equipment in your house. For example, if you need a ball and you haven't got a ball, you can use a pair of socks, pillow, blanket, cushion and music. One example of one of the activities within the Ready Steady Rainbow Toolkit, blanket bounce. Bouncing socks off a blanket or towel. We can introduce different versions of the activity to make it more difficult. For example, how high can you bounce the socks? Toolkit is called Get Active, Stay Active. These activity cards provide young people with the opportunity to take part in casual activities indoors and outdoors. There are a variety of different activities available, for example, standing long jump, to silent ball, to socks wall. We have anticipated that there will be some children and young people who don't want to take part in physical activity. Therefore, we have created some activity cards to stimulate an active mind, such as colouring, crosswords, word searches, and spot the difference cards. We have provided some mindful activity cards as well, such as thought clouds, weekly planners, and emoji feelings cards. Just with the Ready Steady Rainbow pack, getting involved in these activities requires no or little equipment at all. For example, the Keep You Up challenge, to see how many Keep You Ups you can do.
Jermaine from the Active Leeds Positive Futures, and I'm going to set a kick-up challenge for you to try at home and to try and beat my score.
This website is a resource of simple and fun activities that will help parents, guardians and carers ensure that their 2 to 4 year olds get their 180 minutes of recommended physical activities to help them grow healthily. Young children have amazing imaginations, though for parents it can be difficult to know where to start. So we're building an online resource for activities that are free or almost free and can be done indoors or outdoors, in open or limited spaces, together or alone for a range of different situations. Active Imaginations has been commissioned and developed by Hull, Leeds, Kirklees, Calderdale and Wakefield Local Authority, supported by Public Health England.
Cotton ball crawl. What's needed? Cotton balls and spoons. Just like an egg and spoon race, but these will fly off if you go too fast. Who can race across the room or garden fastest with a cotton ball on their spoon?
As everybody knows, schools closed their doors on Friday the 20th of March, and this led to approximately 5.7 million primary age children being at home 24 hours a day. It was very noticeable straight away that there was a huge focus on home learning of core subjects such as maths and English, but very little emphasis on continuing physical education within the home. In response to this, Yorkshire Sport Foundation teamed up with their national partners, the Association for Physical Education and the Youth Sport Trust, to build a resource for parents, demonstrating how they could teach PE to their children at home. The resource aimed to stand out from the crowd, and it's very unique in terms of how it benefits the parents and children accessing it. By tapping into their wider active partnership network, Yorkshire Sport recruited primary school PE teachers from around the country to plan and present videos showing parents how they could develop their child's skills in PE inside their own house. All of these activities are linked to the national curriculum. They focus on developing the fundamental movement skills of children like agility, balance, and coordination. They can all be carried out using everyday household equipment such as socks, frying pans, books, or baskets, and can take place in confined areas inside the home. So the activities contain strong messages to parents and families around what actually constitutes physical education. There's no videos demonstrating fitness activities, for example, that can be found in abundance elsewhere, rather ones that highlight the importance of improving children's movement skills. Parents are also told why these skills are important and how they can be applied to different sports. Perhaps the most important message highlighted, though, is one that PE should be fun, engaging, and help children to thrive in the real world in everyday situations such as running for a bus or dodging out of the way of a lively dog. Trying to educate parents and carers with these positive messages fits within the wider context of PE, having the power to develop the whole child. A high-quality PE curriculum should include a form of the head, heart and hands model, which aims to develop and enhance children's cognition, knowledge and understanding, as well as pay attention to how you could improve their mental resilience, confidence and leadership skills. Both the head and heart can be developed and enhanced through the education of the hands, or physical. So the Lilypad Jump video you can see here is just one example of the videos on the YouTube playlist. All of the This Is PE activities can be found on YouTube through the link at the bottom, or even on the Yorkshire Sport This Is PE webpage, which also provides a little bit more background about the resource.
This is PE.
Today's session is called the Lilypad Jump. It's really good for agility, balance and coordination, and also for working on different aspects of jumping. Jumping is a really important skill for a number of sports, including gymnastics, dance, athletics, and also team sports like football. For today's session, you're going to need 9 lily pads. Lily pads are anything that you can jump on that will be soft and safe to land on. Cushions work really well, tea towels, pillows. To start your activity, you need to clear a safe space for you to perform your jumps. Line 3 to 5 lily pads in a straight line, and the aim of this activity is for your child to try and jump from one end of the lily pads to the other without wobbling or falling off into the water. You can change the type of jump, starting with 1 foot to 1 foot, otherwise hopping, 1 foot to the other foot, a leap, 1 foot to 2 feet, 2 feet to 1 foot, or 2 foot to 2 foot. You can also change the direction of the jump, practice jumping sideways or even backwards. And finally, you can change the shape that you perform in the flight. When your child has mastered different types of jump, rearrange your lily pads so that they are no longer straight. This time, challenge your child to get from one end to the other using jumps in different directions. You can progress the activity by changing the different types of jumps. You can also progress this activity further by adding obstacles for your child to jump over, around, or even on. Finish your session with a game. Create a 3x3 grid using 9 lily pads. You then need to draw a map of your grid, including a safe route from one end to the other, but don't let your child see. Challenge your child to get from one side of the grid to the other, jumping on the lily pads. If they jump on any safe lily pads, they will float and they can continue on their journey. But if they jump on any lily pads that are not part of your safe route, they will fall in the water and you need to shout splash. At this point, they can go back to the start and practice again. I'm Johnny Holding, you've been watching the Lilypad Jump, and this is PE.
This is PE.
Fabulous examples there on how to keep children and young people active at home. But what about the practicalities of physical activity in a wider context? We are, of course, bound by government guidance on this, and health and safety is paramount. On the 2nd of July, the Department for Education released its plan for all pupils in all year groups to return to school from the beginning of the autumn term. Guidance says that schools have the flexibility to decide how physical education, sport, and physical activity will be provided while following the measures in their system of controls. That means pupils should be kept in consistent groups, sports equipment thoroughly cleaned before each use by different groups, and contact sports avoided. Where possible, equipment sharing should be kept to a minimum, and strong hand hygiene practices should be in place before and after activity. Outdoor sports and outdoor learning should be prioritised where possible, and large indoor spaces used where not, maximising distance between pupils. Activities such as daily miles, physically active learning, and encouraging active travel are to be encouraged and will help pupils be physically active while still adhering to social distancing. Schools are able to work with external coaches, clubs and organisations for curricular and extracurricular activities, where they are satisfied that this is safe to do so. The Association for PE offers further guidance on what this means for physical education, physical activity and school sport, including a risk assessment template and responses to frequently asked questions. Outside of schools, where children attend organised physical activity sessions, providers still need to adhere to these fundamental guidelines. Risk assessments should be evidenced and communicated with parents so that everyone is clear on what to expect and aware of procedures in place. Having taught for 25 years, I can confirm that no 2 days in school are the same. You can plan until your heart is content, but children will put their own spin on things and often lead learning down a different path. This pandemic has proved just how committed and versatile teachers are. With an understanding of the importance of physical activity, not only on children's physical health, but on their mental health also, teachers and physical educators across Leeds have stepped up to the plate and shown amazing ingenuity to ensure that children and their families kept active and had fun. The children may have been physically apart, but were socially together with a common goal and shared experience. To give a few examples, the traditional school sports day was an inevitable casualty of the changes schools had to introduce to cope with the coronavirus pandemic. But from a sack race in a pillowcase to target games using a pair of socks, children and teachers have been adapting sports day traditions to celebrate what would have been the highlight of the school calendar. Virtual challenges uploaded by teachers onto YouTube channels allowed children to see a familiar face and be motivated to take part, earning class points and nurturing that sense of belonging and self-worth. One school in Leeds reported a fantastic 1,569 entries across the school, with every year group engaged through differentiated challenges. The long-awaited outdoor residential. Ensuring that children didn't miss out, schools have hosted virtual Zoom video talent shows, encouraging children to build dens and sleep somewhere different. Some went as far as challenging children to build a zip line for a cuddly toy to experience. It may not have been the residential they were looking forward to, but nevertheless, memories made and a connection through shared experiences. To encourage children to keep up with daily physical activity, some schools challenged their children to run a mile by the end of term. Children have been logging their activity and sharing their progress and sense of pride via school platforms and on social media. One 7-year-old child in a school in the northeast of the city, inspired by Captain Tom, decided he was going to run a marathon, broken down into small chunks during his daily bouts of physical exercise. He and his dad set out day after day and completed the challenge in just 2 weeks. In doing so, he raised a whopping £2,254 for charity. Now, I'm a runner myself, and I know how difficult it can be to get out when the weather is bad, or when you've had a bad day. At 7 years old, Ollie showed tremendous resilience and shared an experience with his dad that they will never forget. Garden Groovers, a socially distanced outdoor dance fitness session for all ages and abilities. Originally set up through Barca Leeds and Dazzle dance facilitator Amy. Neighbourhoods and schools can request a 30-minute session through Dazzle's Facebook or Instagram page. The Dazzle admin team then message with a date and time so it can be promoted to others on the street. Garden Groovers has been extremely successful because it has allowed families to come out into their gardens alongside their neighbours and do something fun at a time of hardship. So far, they have delivered Garden Groovers to over 1,000 young people and adults from areas such as Middleton, Belle Isle, Gipton, Hare Hills, Bramley and Tingley. Plans are to continue to deliver Garden Groover sessions throughout the summer. There are a number of Pupil Leadership Awards with the common aim of empowering young people to take an active role in your play workforce. Both the Playmaker Award and Active Schools Plus Mini Sports Leader Award explore what makes a good team and a good leader, along with developing quality communication skills, organisational and motivational skills to get everyone active during breaks and lunchtimes. The awards aim to help learners develop leadership skills, including organisation, communication and teamwork, as well as helping to build confidence and self-esteem as they take on the responsibility of assisting and leading their peers and younger children. Any child can become a playmaker, regardless of their sporting experience or prowess. The Playmaker Award is designed in a way so that learners can participate and learn about key leadership skills. And the recommended age range is 9 to 11 years old. Here at Active Schools Plus, we see children as crucial components of a school's workforce and believe they are best placed to engage with their peers and enable pupil voice to shape sports and physical activity provision within school. And this award is open to all our active schools across the city.
One really effective way to support children to be active is to encourage and enable active travel to school. This is likely to be a particularly hot topic in September, when the majority of children will return to school for the first time in more than 5 months. For the first time ever in Leeds, 6 schools will be piloting school streets this year. As a way of avoiding congestion and enabling physical distancing, as well as opening up opportunities for children to scoot, walk and cycle to school, school streets are a really important innovation. During set times each day, term time only, streets next to these schools will be closed to traffic, except for residents and blue badge holders. Leeds City Council has an influencing travel behaviour team, which is supporting other schools in Leeds to follow suit. These 6 schools could be just the beginning. If you're interested in working with a school or early years setting to establish a school street, please get in touch with Sue Walker. Look out for her contact details at the end of the webinar. But if it's not possible for a school to close its streets to traffic, there are other ways of encouraging families to ditch the car for the school run. Living Streets is a national charity which encourages walking, and it has a great year-round walking challenge for kids called WOW. With WOW, children are rewarded with badges for making active journeys to school, and the whole school gets involved in the challenge. At Moortown Primary School, for example, doing the WOW challenge reduced car journeys from 15% to just 4% in less than a year. Being in lockdown had a huge impact on physical activity levels. While lots did more, many others did less. Where there were inequalities already, these have deepened further. However, other research, such as the English Cricket Board survey, found that many families have been moving more, with 53% of the parents surveyed spending more time being active with their children. Sport England saw cycling rates double from 8% to 16%. With cycling shops reporting record sales of kids' bikes, it's evident that many of those out and about on two wheels were families. Reduced traffic levels meant parents felt brave enough to attempt a family ride. Although traffic is increasing again, there are still so many great places to cycle and walk here in Leeds, and no shortage of information about how to get out and about. Now is the perfect time to promote these great opportunities. Leeds City Council's website has loads of good route maps and planners, while Leeds Mumbler is full of ideas about cycle routes, starting from parks and working up to former railway lines. There's also information about the city's 13 bike libraries and ideas about where to get hold of a good value used bike on the Leeds City Council website. 50 Things to Do Before You're 5 was developed with families to produce a fun resource that offers a wide range of experiences to build skills and language and support brain development in young children. 50 Things helps you find out how, where, and when to do this through a free app and other resources. 50 Things is a fantastic partnership initiative that encourages parents, carers and professionals to get involved in a range of activities with young children that will have a positive impact on their lives and offer rich experiences in which to develop vocabulary and language skills. Schools and early years settings can use the resources to create a programme of activities. The resources have been created in consultation with the community, parents, children, health and social care practitioners. Each suggested activity will lead to an affordable experience which will promote conversation and interaction. Examples of the 50 things include blowing bubbles, mini beast and bug hunting, or experiencing a live event with See It Live. The activities are designed to stimulate vibrant conversations as well as offer memorable, enjoyable and playful experiences.
When children are asked about what they think is important in their lives, playing and friendships is usually top of the list. This is exactly what children will need to support them venturing out into the world again. We know that children will have experienced very different things during lockdown. Some will have welcomed not being in school, others will have witnessed domestic abuse, been isolated from their friends, and experienced loneliness. Some will be mourning, and many will be anxious. I've taken this slide from a talk by Dr. Wendy Russell, who is a senior lecturer in play and play work. There's a huge amount of research that supports the thinking that friendships and attachments to peers is really important and is exactly what children need right now coming out of lockdown. Playing and being physically active with friends can provide a buffer to anxiety and stress. And for children experiencing loneliness, having someone to play with makes a big difference. Playing helps children to express themselves in a safe environment, to build empathy, and to make sense of what has happened. Children will need time to reintegrate and socialise outside of their home environment, and physical activity can play a really important role in this. We have seen play making up a significant proportion of how families are able to be active together, particularly during lockdown, and there are reasons for this specifically linked to the enjoyment play holds for children. Play is often child-led, and they can possess a certain level of autonomy over what the activity involves or how it progresses. Play can lead to a very social environment where children can interact and communicate with each other, building confidence and important social skills. Play is often informal, and children learn to flourish whilst not being bound by a particular structure or routine. Play can be very creative, and children can be active whilst exploring different ways of doing things. However, perhaps most importantly, play is always fun for the children involved. The Play On Family Toolkit is a resource created by UK Active Kids and in partnership with Sport England. It's an easy-to-navigate document that looks to provide some top tips for families to get active together at home or in the community. There are also lots of links to other free online physical activity resources, and even signpost people to mental health guides and support.
In 2007, the first Leeds Play strategy was launched with the promise to create a play-friendly city. Linked to this was the creation of Child-Friendly Leeds, now a hugely influential citywide movement. In 2018, a child-friendly Leeds competition focused on children's ideas for how the city centre could become more playful. Over 300 suggestions were put forward and 10 winning ideas were developed, including indoor play areas, an outdoor cinema, child-friendly Leeds Live in Millennium Square, and pop-up play sessions in the city centre. In 2019, Leeds City Council agreed a commitment to children's play, with a citywide play partnership working towards increased opportunities, time and space to play, and ensuring the importance of children's play is recognised and understood at a strategic level. A play street is an organised event where a road is closed to through traffic so children can play and communities can come together. They can happen on a weekly, monthly or occasional basis. In 2018, Leeds won the Play Award at the National Children and Young People Awards for its work on developing and promoting play streets. The offer here in Leeds is really strong. Anyone can organise a play street with very little red tape, as long as the street isn't on a major bus route. Exciting things will be happening with play streets this summer. Follow Child Friendly Leeds on social media to find out more. So why do play streets make sense as we emerge from lockdown? Well, children will need to be outdoors, active, playful and sociable, even more than ever. And neighbours will want to physically meet, building on an increased sense of community that developed all of those Thursday evenings when people were clapping for the NHS. Older and vulnerable neighbours can take part from doorways, windows or front gardens and feel part of their community, even if they're spending nearly all their time indoors. These are hyper-local gatherings. They're outdoor, so the risk is low. The numbers are limited and there's plenty of space. People have access to toilets and hand washing facilities, and in general, it's a low-risk activity. Children can play with distancing and there's no fixed equipment to clean. People have got used to their streets being quieter and enjoyed it, so this is a way to kind of continue that and celebrate that feeling, really, building on some of the positives of lockdown and being part of a new normal. It's a low-cost, resident-led idea and it's easy for councils to support it, and Leeds City Council supports play streets very well. There's a short film to follow which captures some of the essence of play streets. We hope you enjoy it.
We hope you've enjoyed this webinar and found it useful. These are the takeaway messages we would like you to remember. Being active is vital for children and young people's physical and mental health. There are barriers to children and young people being active in Leeds, which is linked to inequality around gender, ethnicity, economic status. COVID-19 has deepened these inequalities, but there are positive outcomes of lockdown, including new resources for being active at home